Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So one of the most important steps in detailing is drying the vehicle. A lot of times that's when scratching happens, because when you drag the towel across the paint, you might also drag some of the dirt against the paint, and that might cause swirls later on. So the industry has moved on to microfibers, and one of the most famous microfiber towels that we use for drying vehicles is this 1500 microfiber towel from the Rat Company. I'm sure you guys have heard of this towel and seen how it works. It's a 1500 GSM towel, which is a very thick pile. And these drying towels, they're all made of this twist loop weave, which is very helpful because they soak up a lot of liquid. Today, I'll be testing it against this DIY Detail drying blanket. Now, the special thing about this drying blanket, and the reason why I got it, is because of the weave. It's a micro twist. The cool thing about it is that this weave is not as commonly seen with microfibers, so I want to see how it differs than a twist loop that we've seen so often. Both of these are in relatively same price range and size as well. So I'll be testing which one has better performance and which one can dry better. So how I'll be testing the drying power of these towels is that I'm gonna first clean off the hood just with Rinseless. So I'm just gonna wet a microfiber towel with Rinseless, and this will be a wash medium. So after wetting the hood every time, I'll spray some Rinseless on here, just making sure the drying is lubricated. So this will be the first dry of the 1500. Quick rinse with Rinseless to help drying. Both of them have dried 4 times now, and I'm starting to notice a difference. The DIY Detail one is leaving some streaks, but the 1500 towel is still going strong. So let's see what it looks like on the 5th time. So it looks like the 1500 is leaving a slight film of water, but not completely streaking yet. So let's get to the DIY Detail drying blanket. So this is DIY Detail's drying blanket's 5th run, and the towel has gotten saturated enough now. It's leaving this streak, but it still managed to dry the entire hood for the 5th time. So this is the drying blanket's 6th time. So you can see the streak that it leaves behind. It was still able to dry, just like this is probably the drier side of the towel. It was still able to dry the 6th time. But when I go back a second pass, you can see the water that leaves behind. So it's getting pretty saturated at this point. Now, of course, I'm gonna keep going and see how far I can push this towel. So the 7th time for the 1500, it dried it pretty much streak-free. But if you go over a second time, you can see a little bit of streak, but it's not as much as the DIY detail one. So far, very impressed by the 1500. So this is the 7th time for the DIY detail drying blanket, and this might be it because look how saturated it is now. The towel is getting pretty heavy too. It's leaving this kind of web of water. I'm trying to find drier parts of the towel to get that off, but I think this might be too saturated. So this is the 8th time, and I'm guessing the final time that the DIY detail blanket is gonna dry this hood. Yep, that's leaving water streaks behind. Yeah, at this point, the towel has soaked up enough. Yep, this is what the towel looks like when it's completely saturated. The cool thing is it's got this web-looking fiber. So this is the 9th time for the 1500. You can see the towel itself is getting very heavy. I'm putting a lot of work holding it right now, and the fibers are getting pretty saturated. Let's see how it dries. I think I'm gonna try a 10th time for the 1500. Because for a 9th time, it was leaving some streaks, but not as bad as the DIY detail at the 8th time. Yep, that's definitely streaking. And this is getting really heavy to handle now. From my perspective, this looks like what the DIY detail drying blanket looked like at the 8th time. Yep. So that was a test, and I gotta say, they came pretty close, and I think the main difference between the two, I would probably attribute it to the GSM difference, since the 1500 is obviously 1,000 and 500, and the DIY detail drying blanket is 1,200. So there's that difference, and if you look at it, there is that thickness difference as well. So I think that might be the reason why the 1500 could soak up a bit more water and had a little bit more longevity when it comes to drying. Both these towels are dripping water. So the pros and cons for each towel is that, let's start with the pros. The 1500, obviously it can dry a bit more, and it's thicker, so that will hold in more moisture, and you can go a little longer than the drying blanket here. Now the con is that it's a square shape. So I guess depending on your preference, it might be a con or a pro, but a lot of times when I'm drying the side vertical panels, I would like my blankets to be in a rectangular shape, and I like to fold them. I can have one hand higher and one hand lower to get the lower panels. But the 1500 is a little harder to do that with. And since it's so thick, if you fold it, it gets even thicker. So that's its downside. The pro for the DIY detail drying blanket is that it's lower profile. So it's easier to handle, easier to just kind of, you know, swing onto the panel and drag. And another pro is that it's in a rectangular shape. So the shape of it makes it easy to fold to the shape that you need. The lower profile also helps with it being manageable when you fold it. Now the con for the drying blanket obviously is that it doesn't soak up as much moisture, but it definitely isn't that far from the 1500. So in that part, I would still be pretty impressed. Some closing remarks is that if you're not used to handling heavy towels like this, then I would probably go with the DIY detail one. It doesn't get as heavy as the 1500. Since the 1500 is so bulky and it can soak up so much water, it definitely gets very heavy to handle, and it's pretty hard to wring out too. This is after wringing, it actually leaves more streaks than the DIY detail drying blanket. So after using both these towels, I would definitely recommend both of them. As they're a little bit different, I would say for someone who's gonna dry multiple cars and you're out doing different vehicles and you need to dry them back to back, and you just need something that's gonna soak up everything that you have, then I'll probably recommend a 1500 towel from the Rack Company. But the downside is just that you gotta be ready for it to soak up a lot of water, and it is gonna be very bulky and heavy. So that's its downside. Now, if you're a DIYer, I would recommend the funny DIY detail drying blanket. I'm very certain this towel can probably dry this whole car, and this is a 3-row SUV. It can dry this whole car probably twice with amount of water that can be on this car. And keep in mind, the hood and the roof are gonna be the two places that's gonna hold the most water. If you're a DIYer and you're just detailing your own car in a weekend, then I would definitely say that towel will be easier to handle and it's not as heavy. I hope this is helpful and informative, and it helped you understand each towel a little better. So if you found this helpful, please leave a like down below and comment down below if you have tried these towels and which one you'll be getting. And comment down below which one you like better. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Both towels are very impressive, and if you want to get them, I'll have them linked down in the description. And they're actually around the same price. With DIY detail, it's slightly more expensive, but they always have a code that you can use, just like my code for 10% off. It'll bump it down to low 20s, which is pretty similar to the Rack Company one. I think on Amazon you can get it around $20 to $25 as well. So both towels are at the same price range, and you can't go wrong with either of them. So I highly recommend them, and if you're interested, link down below. And if you enjoy the video, please leave a like down below. And in the meantime, have a good day. Bye.